Hey, friends, fans, followers, Mark Spencer, Spencer Speed Shop, Spencer Cycle Shop. I made a video quite a while back about a pressurized thrust bearing oiler. This is the back of the engine. This happens to be my Hemi. I just happened to show, I think, the bearing by itself. I never showed it in the engine block, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. See that hole right there? It's about a 50 thou diameter hole, okay? And it goes right into the pressurized oil. So you get the pressurized oil going to the main bearing, you get pressurized oil coming to the thrust bearing instead of just relying on spillover oil. Is it important? I've actually, going back to the mid-80s, we had a C-Stock 428 Mustang stick shift car wipe out the thrust bearing, like take about 8 thousandths out of it with a 3,600 pound clutch. But even worse, automatics with the flex plate. It's called a flex plate for a reason, because that pump actually puts pressure into the converter and just jams this crank forward, okay? I've never had a thrust bearing related failure since I started doing this in the mid-80s, and I do it on every engine I build, no matter what it's going to be. It's just cheap insurance. You have to drill through the engine block, through the bearing, through the engine block, into the oil passage, obviously before the thing is final washed. And another thing I want to talk about when it comes to thrust bearings, here's the other half right here. You need to line these two halves up, okay? Because they tend to overlap a little bit. They're never precise, deadly precise, because we're not doweled here with the actual main cap. You know, it's relying on some clearance holes for the bolt. So what I do is I load the crankshaft, the thrust service crankshaft, towards the front of the engine. So it's very important to have the backside, the rear main thrust area of the two bearing halves lined up, so it's not shaving oil off the crank as it's going around. So I'm going to get in a little closer and try and repeat it again. Let me get in there. You can see that hole right down there, okay? And it's coming right from this pressurized oil. That bearing, by the way, has a couple thousand miles on it. Looks like it was never used. Once again, with the thrust oiler and also the AccuSump that I have that pre-oils the journals and the crank and the cam and the lifters. Okay, Mark Spencer, Spencer Speed Shop, Spencer Cycle Shop. Goodbye.